the plant's beginning to cannibalize itself. The fields are actually so wet that the sprayer is leaving ruts in the fields. You don't want to see little pigweeds and wheat robbing your yield. Crystal ball would make farming a lot easier. We're going to kind of cash in on the Make America Healthy Again. Hey, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be crop scouting. We're going to look for things that are hindering our profitability today. So we're going to be looking at our corn fields, our soybean fields, our double crop fields, and we're also going to check out a new project that is going to hopefully help us mitigate some of our challenges that we faced with a low commodity market. So new crop coming, new project. We're excited about it. Come join us today. Hold on, let me get it started. So we're not actually taking the dozer, we'll take a pickup. All right, we're out here in one of our earliest soybean fields in 2025. This is probably a March 24th planted field, one of our full season fields. So this field would be the exception, not the rule this year. Lots of continued rainfall, heavy rainfall after heavy rainfall. And we had a lot of wheat this year, so a lot of double crop soybeans. So this field would be the exception, not the rule. But today we're out here looking to see when we can get our next application of fungicide on. So when you're looking at these soybean plants, every variety is a little different in its ability, whether it's blooming or if it's podding. And it's kind of a moving target. They can move in and out of bloom and in and out of podding, kind of depending on conditions. So like if we're in a cooler, rainier period, kind of like what we're in, the beans can bloom, kind of begin to pod. They get another rainfall event, conditions get really good, they're feeling good, and they begin to grow again and start to bloom again. And that's kind of what you see on this bean. You see that it has, where it has 22 nodes right now, which it's pretty late in its maturity process, but we still see some blooms here on the plant that have just bloomed this week. These little small hairy things you see on each node, these are small pods. So this is the very first stage of pod development, the bloom. Then you'll see the little pod that's ½ inch long, followed a little longer pod, and this is a pod beginning to fill its grain. What we're looking for when we're trying to stage these beans to see if they're ready for fungicide is you go to the very top of the plant. So you find your very top node on this plant. That's called a trifoliate, a branch with 3 leaves. You'll move down from there, find your first set of pods, and then count down 4 from here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And you want to see a pod on here at least 3/16 of an inch long. Like I said, these can be moving targets, so this plant wouldn't quite be considered ready for fungicide. But as far as it is along, it's just really good growing conditions. We could probably feel comfortable about putting a fungicide application on this plant, where if we were in a drier condition, conditions weren't quite as favorable, you'd probably wait another 3 or 4 days before you laid fungicide on this plant. With this one, we have some big pods at the bottom and so many nodes on the plant. You would feel safe about going ahead and applying out here in this specific field. But every field's different, and if you question whether you're making the right timing or not, call an agronomist. I think that's always the best call. If you're wondering, hey, is this the right move in a field, especially in a year with suppressed commodity prices, call your agronomist. It's worth the call. It's worth your time to get him out there and to make sure you're making the right decision in your field. So if you've never staged a soybean plant and you're wondering how to stage one, so once you have the plant pulled up and you've kind of cleaned the dirt off of it and you're examining the plant, you'd go down here to the very bottom and you'd look for any place you see like a band or a collar, that is a node. And a lot of times when the canopy gets thick, these lower nodes won't branch. That doesn't mean that's not a stage of the soybean. So if you look at this particular bean, canopy's thick. We have several nodes here that haven't branched, that aren't fruiting, but that doesn't mean that this isn't or wouldn't be able to be a fruiting node without a dense canopy. So we'll start here. This is the first one I see. 1, 2, there's another one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're all the way to our 8th node before we even see a fruit. So you'd rather see the fruits down here, but with a dense canopy, you know, that's just not an option for you. So 8th, 9th, 10th, 11, 12, 13, 14. And as you see, as the plant grows more towards the light and the days were beginning to get warmer, we have elongation between the nodes. So versus earlier in the season when the plant was cooler and the days aren't as long, the nodes are shorter. And we like to see the nodes very tight. So let's go back down here because I forgot where I was at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 is emerging. So 21 nodes on the plant currently. When we look at the root system, you want to see a really well-developed root system at this stage. Look, we have some insect feeding. This is like a little potato beetle that we have here at the bottom of the plant. You really don't want to see this. Not a lot we can do about it. The insects on the lower canopy of the plant, we can't get to it with an application. So this is just a problem you'd have to live with. If the plant has insect feeding at the top of the canopy and it's pretty heavy, you can address it because the spray can hit the insect. But if you see feeding at the bottom of the canopy, you're just going to live with it because your spray that you're putting on top cannot reach this insect on the bottom. The thing we're looking for on the root system here is you see these little nitrogen producing nodules. If you pull one of them off, you want to see that it looks kind of pink in there, and that's just letting you know that the plant is functioning properly and producing nitrogen. You can kind of see the pink color in that node. That's exactly what we're looking for. You don't want to see that to be white. That means there's no nitrogen being produced. You want it to see pink in there, and that's what we see. So the plant's functioning properly. We're kind of like when we're out here scouting, we're looking for you know, diseases that are very evident. So at the bottom of the canopy, in most of these soybean fields, and especially in our no-till, we're going to see some septoria, and that's what we see here. These leaf lesions, you see this yellowing of the leaf. That's septoria disease. What happens is the rain hits the ground, the septoria is present on the ground, it splashes up, it hits the leaf, and you'll begin to get some defoliation in the plant. There's not a lot you can do with that. What I'm looking for mainly out here is frog eye leaf spot. That's one of our most yield robbing diseases in our soybean fields. And with frog eye, it's an airborne pathogen. It'll just come in and land on the crop, and you'll begin to see lesions at the top of the plant. And once you see frog eye leaf spot, it's critical that you go out there and you make an application. Last year, we had already made our fungicide applications. Frog eye came in, got on our plants. We chose not to make an application and had some pretty destructive disease come in. So lesson learned, if you see frog eye come in on your plants, go ahead and make the application. Where we did make applications last year, it improved our yield 5 or 6 bushels, I think. So we could have easily made the application, even though the application was expensive, and still return some money to our pocket. So lesson learned, you see frog eye coming into the field, make sure that you're out there with your sprayer trying to prevent any more spread of the disease. out here looking at our cornfield to see what kind of diseases we have present. This was my very earliest planted field, March 24th. We're checking these leaves just to make sure we don't have southern rust, common rust, or tar spot. Tar spot generally is a problem in the northern states, but we are seeing it track south, and we need to keep check on our fields to make sure we don't have it present. So I pulled 3 leaves here. This is a perfectly intact leaf. You don't see any leaf feeding, no lesions. This is what we want to see the plant looking like. We see a little bit of nutrient deficiency here, but it's not a big problem going on. So you want to see those leaves intact, really green, so it can harvest the most sunlight it can harvest. Here we have a little leaf feeding on the plant. This is just an insect. I wouldn't call that a major problem, but definitely just when you're walking through the fields, kind of be watching for stuff like that. And here we have a lesion, and this is what we're looking for out in the field. This isn't tar spot or southern rust or common rust, but it is a blight. And when you're walking through the field looking for leaf diseases, you're looking for lesions like this, or maybe smaller block lesions that would indicate gray leaf spot, or little black dots indicating tar spot, or southern rust, which is actually a rust-looking pustule, almost like a pimple on the plant. When you see those things, it's time to come in with a fungicide and keep that plant healthy. We want corn living as late in the season as it can possibly live to fill these kernels with weight. So that's what we're looking for. We want to make the grain weigh a lot. So getting pretty late in the corn's life here. It's beginning to dent, and pollinated good. You know, not seeing a whole lot of problems in this really early planted field. Looks like it's going to be some pretty good corn. So what is denting? So basically what we have here is whenever the kernel is completely formed, and the moisture begins to pull back in it. So your moisture beginning to pull back a little, the kernel is beginning to harden some, the very top of the kernel will dent in. That'll become more pronounced. Every variety is different, but as the plant matures more, the kernel matures more, the dent will be pulled back a little further at the end, and it'll just be a little dimple at the end. And every hybrid is different. Some have a really deep dent, some have just a slight dent, and you can see the beginning of that process here in this ear. So I broke this open to just count the diameter around, and as we pull the kernel here and look, you'll see a little line on the kernel. Here this is called the milk line, and as the kernel matures, this will move down a little further deep into the kernel. And basically, you know, when your milk line moves all the way down to the lower fourth, the kernel is nearly mature and almost ready for harvest. So we're several weeks out here. More than likely, this is a 4th week of August harvest. We're sitting here in the 3rd week of June. So, you know, 4+ weeks out of harvest, and everything's looking good. So I did have a question this week about the lower canopy of the plant. Somebody asked me, they said, hey, I walked out in my field and my canopy's dead almost up to the ear. Did I get dry? And they're right here in our region in Kentucky. And no, you're not dry. It has been extremely wet here. The deadening of the canopy has nothing to do, in this case, with drought or heat. What we see is we've had so much rain here in Kentucky that our fields are beginning to denitrificate. So the nitrogen is leaching out of the soil, and the plant is having to cannibalize itself to be able to fill its ear. So you see these dead leaves at the very bottom of the plant. You want to see these leaves all the way to maturity, green and healthy. So I know for a fact that this corn has begun to denitrificate because I take tissue samples. You'd like to see corn this time of year 4% plus nitrogen, and I think these fields are more like 3% nitrogen. So we're going to experience some yield loss from it. Not a lot we can do in this season with the amount of rain we've been receiving, 60+ inches on this field since January 1st. So tons of rain, nitrogen's leaching into the soil, the plant's beginning to cannibalize itself. It's not severe. We just see a couple leaves dead on the bottom of the canopy. But in a severe situation, I've seen denitrification all the way up to the ear and above. So what's happening in that case, the plant's like, hey, I'm out of nitrogen. I need to produce seed, and it's tearing its nutrients out of its leaves and putting them in the ear. It's critical for beans to have a clean start. So we're out here in one of our double crop fields today, and just looking at the field for weed pressure, we want to see a completely clean wheat field with only beans out there. So what we've found is the cleaner the field is early, the more chance it has to make yield late. And so when we see wheat or small weeds in the field, especially when the beans are young, we want to clean those weeds out. This week, the fields are extremely wet. The sprayer's making ruts in the field. We're holding up on an application, but we don't want to see this young wheat growing out in our competing against our soybeans. These things use these young plants use a lot of water and a lot of nutrients. Usually moisture is at a premium in July, not the case this year, but in most seasons we don't want to see young plants competing against our soybeans for nutrients, sunlight, or water. Get those sprayers out in the field, and if you see wheat or you see small weeds, spray early and often. Get rid of them. Let that plant canopy and not have to make rescue applications late trying to save the soybeans. So the cleaner the field, the better the beans. So I'm playing devil's advocate here. It's been extremely wet this season. A lot of these fields have had 60 inches of rain since January. If we knew that was going to happen, we probably wouldn't have had wheat. We would have been planting in our fields early with soybeans, and that way, once the rain happened, we wouldn't have had to been out here worrying about spot planting or making applications because the crop would have already been established. Crystal ball would make farming a lot easier. What we see this year is a lot of delayed planting because of the rainfall. We cut the wheat, and then we weren't able to get back in and plant the soybeans. Because of that, the fields are really late. We would like to see the fields already canopied by this point in July. Not the case this year. So a lot of these fields are going to have reduced yield just because of the late timing of the planting and a late maturing crop. Probably going to be on the combine around Thanksgiving. Nobody wants to see that. And suppressed commodity prices this year. So, beans are at or below $10 in most locations. That makes growing soybeans very difficult because we're at the cost of production or actually below the cost of production. And so in years like that, what you want to see is really high yields to compensate for the low commodity prices. In these double crop fields, we're going to see reduced yielding because of the late timings of the plantings and the conditions they're having to grow into. So that's going to reduce our profitability overall, possibly put us in some fields of actually losing money, and you never want to see that. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit of some things we're going to do in the next couple of years to try to mitigate some of the challenges we've seen happening in the commodity market. New project alert at the farm. So suppressed commodity prices year over year, 3 years of bad markets. We're going to look for a new project to try to help bolster our bottom line at the farm. Actually, this is going to be a U-pick flower farm, possibly hanging baskets and produce. We're going to kind of cash in on the Make America Healthy Again. We want to have something that our community can enjoy, come out here, find a hanging basket, maybe have a picnic over here with their family, and then have a flower farm at the back where if they want a bouquet of flowers, they can go out and pick by the stem, have an afternoon with their family. They get the experience of being able to be on the farm, looking and selecting their produce, and then we get the benefit of having a market that we're not beholden to. Like we're selecting a price for the product, and they're purchasing the product versus a commodity where they offer you $4.50 for the product and you have to take $4.50 for it. So I'll kind of explain my vision for this a little bit. So we have this is an old farmstead here. There used to be a farmhouse. This was one of the old farm shops. Now what I envision is a nice looking storefront where the customer can come in, look at some of the products we have available already out of the field and in the store. They come through the building into a greenhouse back here, and we don't exactly know what our offerings will be in the greenhouse. It's not even constructed yet, but possibly hanging baskets, started plants, things like that. After the greenhouse, they'll be able to exit, and we've left part of this field out this year to try to clean out some of the chemistry that is in it. Going forward, this will be the start of our flowers. So more than likely the first year we'll have flowers in this field. I hope to eventually expand into maybe fruit trees, blueberries, strawberries, things such as that, and that'll take up some of this part of the field. Also, we have this at one time was a woods that was a pasture, so cows were grazing through it and such. So we have some old growth oak trees in here. I'm going to clean out around that, sow some grass, put some picnic tables, and the customer will be able to come out, just have some time with their family in the shade if they want to have a picnic, and then come out into the flower field, pick their flowers, hopefully host some weddings one of these days, maybe even have a restaurant or something like that. So huge vision for this place. We're excited about it, and really can't wait to put boots on the ground here. All right, thanks for watching our YouTube. Thanks for joining us today. If you have some suggestions for our upcoming videos, we'd love to hear it. Drop a comment in the box. Not a lot going on here at the farm right now. Middle of summer, crops are in the field. We don't have a lot of subject matter to shoot, but if there's something that you would like to know about or something you'd like to see, drop us a comment. We'll make a video for it. So thanks for joining us today. Like, share, and subscribe. So I was just walking here by the old building and see a old printed brick. So with all these old bricks that you see here in our region, the manufacturer of the brick used to stamp their name on it. So pretty unique. You see this one's out of Ohio. Pretty cool.